Gemini speaks, Gemini speaks, boom, boom, da, boom, da, boom.
Things to note when you're coming specifically to Santo Domingo. Exchange rate in the airport, where they say it's no fee, in fact, is a fee, and you need to watch out. You may notice that it is a very, very busy city in terms of traffic. Most importantly, you're going to notice that it is kind of dirty here. Not everywhere. This is not in every area, but on the outskirts, and you have to go through other neighborhoods in order to get to those areas. You will see a number of streets that certainly could use some cleaning and or maintenance. I will say are walkable. There are a number of restaurants. So there are a number of things to do in that area if you need to walk to do fun things. It's LGBT friendly. And has the flavor of Sevilla or the old part of San Juan, but nothing like Old Town San Juan. Old Town San Juan is quaint, clean, well kept. It's not that experience. The cost of restaurants in that area, they're probably equivalent to most cities, such as in New York or Los Angeles. The average cost of a dish is around $10. And then, some of the other restaurants, it gets a little more expensive. It's like 700 Dominican pesos. Stay a month, maybe a month or two, and you're trying to choose an area to live, I would highly suggest that you choose an area where you're not so much on the outskirts, because the cost of taxis start to add up. So you might get a great deal, and there's no public transportation. That's like the nicer public transportation. There are the local little autobus buses and moto taxis that you get in, where you literally get on the back of a motorcycle with no helmet, with them driving crazy. It's dangerous. I did it once. I was only going a couple of blocks, and still, this couple of blocks, I was praying. But people are driving crazy. The motorcyclist is driving crazy, taking a lot of chances. So it's not ideal transportation. The locals do it, so that's a major consideration if you're not living in an area that's walkable. Most importantly, to a supermarket, because if you're staying long term, the main place that you need to go once a week or every 2 weeks would be the supermarket. So it's going to be a cab ride every single time. It's something to consider if you had to go. If you're finding something for $450, but you're spending another $50 or $100 in transportation every time you want to go out and do something, it's better just to chalk up the bread, stay in a nicer area. That's what I would suggest. The cost in Santo Domingo on in driveway to go anywhere from 5 to 10 miles is between, depending on what time of the day it is and depending on the driver, between 250 pesos and about 400 pesos. A little bit more or perhaps a little bit less. That would put it about between $3 and around $9, $8 to go, say, 2 miles to 10 miles, or something as low as 250 pesos. You have many, many, many options where you pay when you arrive at the hotel. Now, I thought that meant when I arrived at the hotel, I could use my bank card or my credit card to pay. In fact, no. You will need to pay in cash. Now, I don't think the average person is walking around with $500 in cash. Not only $500 in cash, but maybe even $500 in local currency. If that be the case, you need to be prepared for that. So if it says pay at the hotel, that means pay cash at the hotel. And something, even going to the ATM, you have to be aware that you are pulling out a large amount of money. You want yourself to be in a safe situation. I did it. I will have to do it again. Arriving, bring the cash with you and pay in dollars if that's what you choose to do. They might not tell you this. I had one hotel that did not tell me, and I had one hotel that did tell me. Supermarkets that I found to be the nicer supermarkets. There are a number of chains here, around 5. The Supermercado Nacional. There's Bravo. There's Jumbo. There's La Serena and Ole. I think Ole and La Serena are one of the cheaper ones, and they're like our version of a Walmart. Some of them are nicer than others, depending on the neighborhood they're in. Bravo is a rather upscale supermarket, but not as large as Nacional would be. Supermercado Nacional. And Ole is for sure like a Walmart. It's not located everywhere. It's a large store, so it tends to be located on the outskirts more so than in the city. I would say as far as price points are concerned, the ones that are more like a Walmart tend to be cheaper, but I didn't find the pricing to be that significantly different now. Bravo and Nacional offer many items that the other supermarkets that I mentioned do not. I would say, though, if you're in a situation where you can buy these things on the street, such as avocados and tomatoes and things like that, you're going to come out way cheaper. You will have to speak Spanish, and you will have to be aware of what the price is for those items, because being a foreigner, they're probably not going to charge you what they would charge a local, but I would imagine it's still going to be cheaper than in the grocery store. When you get to the register, they usually ask you, do you want something else? So you have your groceries, you're going through, and they're going to ask you, do you want something else? They don't say algo más. They say something else, and they speak really quickly too. So on the back's your groceries, which is very helpful. I can get one of the larger avocados for like 50 pesos. You need to be aware of what things cost in order for you to figure out whether that is a fair price. But if you're not concerned about that, then buy as you may. Buy wherever you want and pay whatever the person is asking you to pay. If you're getting service, so if you have a phone that has the capability to take open SIM card, Lotto is affiliated with T-Mobile, for example, your phone will automatically switch over. But if you do not have a plan that includes some of the basic things such as texting and data, you will be paying roaming charges. If you switch to roaming, some phones do it automatically, other phones you have to turn it on yourself. It can be good. If you need to make phone calls, you need to use some online app to do that unless it's covered in your service. I also have a phone for here. The prepaid plan, the one that is not the smallest but not the largest, somewhere in the middle. It's like not the most basic one, but it was enough for me to have data to call a taxi or do some minor communication with my hotel or whatever. So I didn't get one of the larger plans that you can get. It was about 415 pesos for a month plan. And it came with a decent amount of data and unlimited texting through WhatsApp and whatnot. So for me, that was a good plan. So that's at least giving you some idea of what that's going to cost. It is legal for a foreigner, unlike almost every other country that I'm aware of, that I've traveled to or that I've done research about. As a foreigner, not a resident, but just as someone who is visiting here, you can buy a car. I don't know about financing a car, but if you just want to buy a car, a used car, or a new car, if you got like that, you want to just out of pocket buy a new car while you're living here without residency, you can do that. It's legal for you to buy a car here. If you do, the car registration actually is something that we do at the bank. So if you decide to go down that route, I'm not giving you all the information, but I'm just giving you some information to start regarding buying a car. Your license here, if you're visiting, is good for, I think, 90 days. If you stay beyond 90 days, then you may or may not be able to rent a car. I wouldn't know. I haven't rented a car yet, and I have not been here for 90 days. That is something for you to consider. It does rain, sometimes quite a lot, sometimes just a little bit, and then the sun comes right back out like it never happened. It is not hot at night, at least not until wintertime. It is about 75 degrees at night, which some people, I guess, might still think is warm, but I think it's nice temperature. It might even be chilly enough for a jacket at night. It is humid. It's not unbearable. Mind you, it's still spring. It isn't summer yet, so I can't speak on summer quite yet. But it's been raining here and there. Sometimes a lot, sometimes not so much. They only give you a 30-day visa here. If you stay over your visa, technically speaking, you are here illegally. That does not mean anyone is going to take you to jail. It just means that you're beyond your visa stay. It's only 30 days. You can extend your visa through immigration, which has different price points. The first price point starts at $50, beyond 30 days to, I believe, 90 days. And from 90 days to 6 months, I think it's like $80. We'll check online about this. However, if you just do it at the airport, the price is exactly the same, and the policy or the reality of what you're doing is the same. So you're still paying a penalty for overstaying. So even if you go to the immigration office, you're being penalized for overstaying your 30-day visa. And if you just do it at the airport, you're paying a penalty for staying over your 30-day visa. And you know what I know. This is not a country where you can really get around without speaking Spanish. There are a lot of people who do it. They use their phones, they communicate, whatever. But to really have a conversation with someone, to really be comfortably getting around the city, to pull out your phone all the time is not always safe, appropriate, or wise. I would suggest you take a class or get a book and slowly try to teach yourself how to speak Spanish. There are a number of applications that you can use. There are many, many, many choices, including a tutor. They have tutoring services here, or people that are offering tutoring, is what I'm saying. Basic Spanish would go a long way when you are paying for things, when you are needing to go somewhere, when you need to find something in the supermarket. There are many, many scenarios where some basic Spanish would definitely help your comfort level in a Spanish-speaking country such as the Dominican Republic. So basically, that's 2 months deposit and 1 month's rent. That is normal here. If you're not really going to stay more than 6 months, or you're the type of traveler who's going to be 3 months here, 3 months there, 6 months here, 3 months there, that kind of a thing, I would highly suggest Airbnb, or you start with Airbnb and you make arrangements with the owner of Airbnb, not through Airbnb necessarily, but you make arrangements to stay longer without having to necessarily sign a contract. In that case, then you don't have to do the deposit thing. You will pay more for this because the apartments that are straight up like the locals are cheaper that way, especially if they're unfurnished. So, but if they're furnished, you're going to pay a premium. You want to be walking distance from any place you want to be, and you want to be in an area that is relatively clean and nice and quiet, because the areas can get very busy, very noisy, and disrupt your ability to sleep, or if you're working at home or your computer, whatever the case might be. Most people don't want to live in a noisy environment, but other people can live in noisy environments. It doesn't bother them. I'm from New York City. Typically, it's noisy. As far as friendliness is concerned, if you're coming from a large city, not in the South, but in the North, Midwest, Los Angeles, New York City, metropolitan area, people aren't particularly friendly per se. They aren't particularly helpful per se. And that's kind of how it is in Santo Domingo. In the tourist areas, the tourist towns such as Punta Cana, Puerto Plata, Sosua, and those places that I mentioned, and most of those are beach towns, there is a completely different vibe. It's way friendlier and it's way more tranquila. Sometimes they can be very friendly and curious about where you're from. They're very curious about where I'm from. They always think I'm from Africa. But my experience, of course, is coming from the point of view that I am a brown-skinned woman, a dark-skinned, African-looking brown-skinned woman who does not look like a traditional type of female. I'm wearing short hair. You're not that woman from a Latino man's point of view, a Latino woman's point of view. So I think this is a cultural thing, for sure. When you're paying for something, unless it is at a restaurant and you know they take cards, or you're purchasing something in one of the larger malls, most of the malls, I would say all the malls take a debit card or a credit card. But in the more local areas, in the more local stores, you will need to have cash to pay for things. The supermarkets take a card, not the mini marts though, I can't promise that. I'm talking about the major supermarkets will take your debit card. The places that you pay for service on your phone, they will take your credit card. I would also pay in the local currency, so we'll give you a choice, US dollars or local currency. Now, the good thing about seeing US dollars or local currency is you get the exchange, so you see how much money you're spending, in case you're not paying attention or in case you're not sure. I have a credit union, and they don't charge me. So when I pay with my debit card, and I choose local currency, I do not get charged for that. That might depend on your bank, so that's something you might want to check. But in general, when you pay in local currency, it's a better option than paying. If you choose to rent a car in the Santo Domingo area, in the city of Santo Domingo, you can find a car as cheap as about $250 a week, which is not terrible. It's certainly doable for most people who are vacationing. The caveat to that is that you would have to drive in this traffic, which is crazy. Okay, they don't follow the rules of the road. It's a crapshoot. So, but if you choose to rent a car, that's what it will cost you. The taxi asks you, or anytime you take a taxi, there is a way for you to choose in your map to drop your location or drop the location where you're going, and you can text that to the driver. My suggestion is to text where you're going, a little map, drop pin of where you're going so that he can find the location. This is because they don't have addresses here. They don't have an actual home address. So you can drop a pin and tell them where you're going. To communicate to drivers, especially through InDriver, you will need the application called WhatsApp. WhatsApp. It works with almost all the phone services you're going to get here, not all. It will work with the phone services that you might have in your own country, United States and Europe. It is necessary to use to communicate when you're here for services. So if it's a cab, that's one thing. If through an app, if it's calling a cab directly, it is another way that they use WhatsApp. It's much cheaper to book a hotel through an app such as Booking.com or Airbnb. For a month, you will wind up paying sometimes half, sometimes even a third of the cost if you were just booking on a day-to-day sort of basis or a weekly basis. Sometimes you get a discount on a weekly basis as well. But the best discount is for a month if you find that you're booking a place that's on the outskirts. Because I do like a little thing. I look and see if I can see the street, what that looks like, and I check how close the grocery store is, and I check how close maybe some type of entertainment that I would like to do is. I check all these things. So I would suggest you do the same so that you're not left in the dark when you get there. I check YouTube to see what the airport was like, many things. I think I've covered many things. If you have any questions, put them in the comments. I'd be more than happy to respond. This is Gemini speaking about my travel, my nomadic life, my new nomadic life. I just do these things. I have no idea why. Then after I do them, I'm thinking, why did I just do that? Because I can, because I can, because I can, because I can do it now. And I hope you got the kind of information that will help you enjoy your trip to the Dominican Republic in Santo Domingo. Peace.
Gemini speaks, Gemini speaks. Boom, 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 boom.